Hey guys, I'm Aviriia,
Hello guys, I'm Iradox.
and today we're going to talk all about Star Wars roleplay. Today I'm joined by Jonas, one of the fellow Sith roleplayers from SWTOR, and we're going to talk all about Star Wars, Star Wars The Old Republic roleplay, Sith roleplay. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hello everyone, I'm Jonas. In the SWTOR RP community, I'm known as Iradox. I've been around since open beta, and I've led a Sith role-playing guild called the Nyas Directive for 3 years. And presently, I'm just kind of lolling around and doing other roleplay.
Other roleplay is a very broad term.
Well, yesterday I was doing roleplay with my Dungeons and Dragons group, which I do once a month. And other than that, in SWTOR itself, I'm part of a new guild. Since I had a bit of a hiatus after the story of my main character through the years concluded. So now I'm playing a Jedi in a guild called Harmony, which is sort of more of a ragtag group of former Alliance members. And then I do a lot of roleplay on Discord too, which is sort of in my own universe that's set like 20 years after the SWTOR timeline. So that's something I do regularly too. So lots of roleplay. What have you been doing?
What I've been doing, well, content creating. I'm also a guild member still for the Erisi directive. There are a lot of directives out there, by the way. But no,
I'll start.
But no, I've been doing roleplay, making content. I got this very crazy idea of recording all the storylines for the YouTube channel, so I'm going to be very busy with that one. And yeah, slowly rolling back into roleplay. I'm a GM of the Sith Guild called the Erisi Directive, and then also I joined the Errands of Ashla on the Republic side. Which is, to be honest, it blew my mind when you told me I came back to SWTOR Roleplay and I joined the Republic Guild. Like, we known each other since 2012?
Six. I think we met each other in 2006 during the Star Wars celebration, right? During one
2016,
of the
yes.
cantina tours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in London. Like, I remember that we met there and it was amazing, but we knew each other before that as well. Through the
Yeah,
roleplay.
like seen each other in roleplay. Yeah.
I think it's like 2012, 2013. Like, it's so weird. It's a real long time ago, I think.
I don't think it's that long ago because like I created the Nyas Directive like 5 years ago at this point. I think 5 or 4 years. Yeah, and I led it for 3 years. So I don't think maybe 2016, something like that.
I think longer, to be honest.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
It's a really long time. It's a crazy long ago. How long?
Well, the point is, we've been around and we've seen like the community develop from like in the start you had these huge RP PvP battles where you had like hundreds of people, and then we worked through the period where Strongholds came out and roleplay started moving into a more private setting, but there were still plenty of people around. Like if you went to Korriban, there was all these guys standing there like this ramp leading up to the Sith Academy in their edgy armor, being like, "I'm a Darth and I look badass."
The Red Darks.
Yeah. And now these days, where like if you're not part of a role playing guild, you basically can't find role play because the open world is just deserted.
That's so true. Oh, it's actually crazy if you think about how evolved the roleplay has become throughout the years, because it's indeed a thing. Like, if you're not in a community, like either Discord community or in-game community to a guild, it's like, where can you find roleplay?
But I think that's natural because, like, over the course of SWTOR's game, obviously there are gonna be less players. Whereas if you move to like World of Warcraft, I've done some roleplay over there. You'll find roleplay everywhere, basically, because they still have a big player base. But maybe we should elaborate a bit about what we mean when we're saying roleplay.
Like how did you get into roleplay?
Imagine all of your viewers and know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, because roleplay, it's a broad term, and it's a, like, how do you say, like, lots of people think about roleplay of people just standing around the cantina bar on the place, just cheers and drinking, but
Cheers,
that's not
mate.
why I got into
I am Darth
roleplay.
Iradox. Could you hand me the fish and chips, please? Yeah.
Cheers.
So well, it's true. Like there are role players standing around a cantina called cantina roleplay, which is basically when you go to like a social setting and your characters are just hanging out and talking to each other. But that's not what roleplay usually is.
It's like a very small fraction, and it's certainly not how I got into roleplay. Like thinking, like, let's go roleplay as SWTOR. I'm gonna stand around a bar and drink. I don't think like nobody does that to get into roleplay.
No, I mean, some people do. Some people really like cantina roleplay, but like. I think the best way to explain it is if people have any idea what Dungeons and Dragons is, where you gather around the table and roleplay, and then there's a game master, and there are a couple of players who have characters, and then go on an adventure, right? The difference is that in an MMO, be it World of Warcraft or SWTOR, you create your own character, and then you just sort of jump into the world, and your character has goals and a background. And then you find other characters and interact with them to reach your goals and background. And then you might join a guild, and that guild will have a theme and a storyline. And then you'll sort of just explore your character in that setting. So, for instance, you might join a Jedi guild that is going to Taris, which is like the planet with the Rakghouls, because there are some refugees there who have gone missing, and then they'll go explore there, and then maybe the plot will be that, oh no, there's this Sith guy capturing them and experimenting on them, and then you have an event to try and stop that, or something like that. Yeah, exactly. And then your characters deal with the aftermath of that, and so on. So that's more a typical example of what role playing looks like in an MMO.
Yeah, but also personal character development, because it's just a part of a story arc that could be from a guild, but your character itself also develops throughout time, and people don't really see that from the outside. They think, oh, it's just this character, it's already perfectly developed, and it can already be everything. It's like... The thing that I personally enjoy when making a roleplay character is the growth of the character, like starting off lowest, like as an acolyte on the Sith Empire, and then becoming an apprentice, and then slowly working up to be a lord eventually. Is it also something that you have enjoyed throughout the years? Because we both have done Sith roleplay for a really long time. What appealed Sith roleplay actually to you?
If we segue into Sith roleplay and talk about character development, then yes, but I've also observed through the years that like a lot of people, when they enter Sith roleplay, have this preconceived idea that they're going to start as an acolyte or apprentice, and then through the course of their role-playing career, they'll then advance to Lord and then to Darth. And the issue is that if you base your entire expectations on advancing through ranks, which is very archetypical for Sith, then you'll probably be disappointed, because the reality of the situation is that if you start out as an acolyte, first you'll need to find people who are willing to play Sith overseers and other acolytes, which you can find in some Sith role.
You broke up a little bit.
And if you want to play Sith apprentice, you need to find a master, which can be difficult. And then you need to find a master that will actually provide good Sith, like master apprentice roleplay for you. And then at some point you need to advance to a Sith Lord through roleplay, which is doable usually. And then when you get to Sith Lord, or just you'll have some more independence. But going from Lord to Darth, from Lord to Darth, like some people just do it, and then they go around be like, I am doing this, but
it doesn't happen nowadays anymore. The
issue is that you're not, because to be a Darth, you kind of need some pull, and you need other people to recognize your character as a Darth, and you need a power base, and so on. So it becomes more difficult in that way, which is why I think you should probably base your character development more on a personal story, in my opinion. It doesn't have to be just rank development.
Yeah, because that's something that I noticed. Like, I've been role playing this character, Aviriia, Sarisa and Aviriia. It's also what my name came from, through 2011 to 2016. And she started off as like the lowest of the lowest, and she ended up as a Darth. And when you reach Darth, you sit there, you're like, now what? And that's something that lots of people experience, and yeah. People are very focused on like progressing and just skipping the personal storyline, and they're like, I want to be this in 2 years time, and you're like,
Yeah, you see that a lot with Sith Roleplay, and then there are also the issue. Actually, let's not brag on Sith Roleplay too much. There's a lot of good things going for Sith Roleplay, even though it has some challenges because it's all about, you know, power advancement, which can lead to a bit of drama too, on out of character basis. But I think Sith Roleplay has a lot of things going for it too, which is why I was attracted to it. For instance, that you get to explore a very different mindset, and you get to explore darker settings and so on, and it can be fun playing an evil character. It really can. And it'll be especially fun if the people around you think that it's fun too. Like if you play, you see a lot of Sith characters, especially people who play characters in positions of power, that will be all about exploring their character's power trip, you know, and that's not fun to be around for other role players. So if you want to play like a Dark Lord successfully, in my experience, then you need to make sure that other people enjoy interacting with them too, which you can do through a lot of ways. Like, for instance, you can tell interesting stories, or you can just come across as interesting and menacing, so people actually feel like they're interacting, you know, with a Sith Lord. Because I don't know if you experienced this, but I started out as a Sith apprentice too, back in the day, and found a Sith Master, and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna have the Sith Master, and it's gonna be awesome! And then they were just kind of dull and not very intimidating at all, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. Okay, you're saying to repeat the Sith code again. Well, that's really interesting, Mark. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I noticed, and it's like there are people, and it's just the matter of roleplay style. Like if you're roleplay like the Sith and you're trying to scheme and plot things, and then you come to a point that you're like almost like you appear to be smarter than the Sith Lord, and not really strength, but like with the like how you deal with certain things. You're like, that doesn't sound right. But there are also like Sith Lords in the roleplay community out there. Like I remember that really much when I was an acolyte and tried to impress to become someone's apprentice. You're like, oh man, I need to double check my spelling. Need to make sure I kneel right in the exact same time. Because if I don't do that, I will end up hanging like upside down on the Yevon, like bunks on my ankles. Like you just really need to be careful, or that's the feeling you got from them, and I really enjoyed that. And
you're talking about the tension in Sith Roleplay.
Yeah, the tension in Sith Roleplay. It can lead out.
There's an underlying. Yeah, there's an underlying sense of danger. Yeah,
there is an underlying sense of danger because it's like
it's done well. Yeah,
it is healthy, but it can also be unhealthy because it feels like walking on eggshells. But every single thing you do, it can backlash onto your character, and then things you have done throughout 2, 3, 4, 5 years can all be gone. But it can also work like, hey, if I do this right, maybe I will gain a certain asset which will make my character stronger. And this is tension. I really like that, but it takes time and it takes a lot of energy and effort. It's not something that you do within a daytime. So it's like, it can take at least half a year, and actually half a year in real time. And I don't know if you've experienced the same thing.
I think you're touching upon something important there when it comes to Sith Roleplay. Like, the first thing is that I think when you're role-playing with, like, a Sith Lord, and if they do it well, then you should feel, like, when you're into their summoned you, you should feel like Darth Vader summoned you, you know? Yeah. That should be fucking scary, and that's what you're talking about, like, the tension. So if that Sith Master can pull it off well, it should be really intimidating to be in their presence. Or at least, you know, eerie. But the whole idea that you're walking on eggshells and your character could lose everything, that's good from an in-character perspective. Like, your character should feel like they're losing everything, But if you feel that out of character too, because you're in a vicious setting where the just like character kill your
Yeah.
character, if you where was I? I'm saying that the tension is great in character, and your character should absolutely feel like their life is in danger often when they're interacting with the Sith Lord in character. But there should be a very clear distinction between in character tension and out of character tension, because I think Sith roleplay, when it's done right, it also recognizes that other people have characters that they've worked on for a long while. So although Darth Vader might, choke people that annoy him and kill them, you should give the impression that your character would do that with the underlying understanding that you're not going to, unless people really push it, because otherwise, like if you just kill a character for no reason, then you ruin however long a person has spent on developing that character story, and then they'll be annoyed out of character, which, to be honest, I think is fair enough, and that just leads to a tense and toxic out of character environment where people get angry at each other out of character. And really, you should remember that roleplay is about coming together and enjoying the experience together, which I think Sith roleplay sadly often has a proclivity toward drama, because you are dealing with evil themes and power and stuff like that, and sometimes that has a tendency to flow into out of character, especially when some people that play Sith Lords use the whole in character power hoarding as a way to play their own power fantasy instead of creating role play for everyone around them.
And it's a thing that I think is a really good thing where you join a community, and also just joining like a roleplay with someone else is setting boundaries. Like if you just, before you go into something, you make it clear like, hey, I don't want my character killed, or hey, you can cut off my hands or something if something happens, and make sure it's like all clear. And I don't think like killing off a character without even talking about it, like then it should be out of the picture. Like, it's a thing, like people have spent a long time on their character, and it should not be the person's like ego trip, is like how I like to call it, like, oh, I'm better than you, my character is stronger than you, I'm way stronger. Like even if it's a lord versus lord, like I've seen so many scenarios where it's like a lord's character fighting another lord's character, and it ended up like with a measuring contest. Like, I am stronger. No, I'm stronger. And then it went straight into Discord DMs, and the people just watching it happen in character, and they're whispering each other like out of character, whispering like, I think this is gonna end in a drama, and then we're like, yep.
You think so? Yeah.
So it can be fun when it's like very powery, like have the tension ideally, but when it gets too much and it flows and leaks into OC, you're like, oh no.
Yeah, that's why, in my opinion, Civ roleplay tends to work better in closed communities where people trust each other, and then you can expand out a bit. But like, for instance, having like a duel to the death with a character you just met out, out in the open world with a person behind it that you don't necessarily trust, and then suddenly they pull a starship from orbit and bomb it down your head, and you're what? How? Wait, but I was stabbing you. How did you pull a starship from orbit, and how did it fall so fast? And like, Lord, dude, don't take it out of character. Something like that. But I think you're touching on an important underlying topic there, which a lot of people fail to recognize, which is that a character, no matter how long they've been around, whether it was my character, like Iradox, who'd been around for 7 years, or your new Civ apprentice, they have, regardless of how much story they have, and regardless of how you picture them in your head, they don't have any inherent power. They only have as much power as other role players are willing to give them, or accept they have. And the way you get people to accept that your character is powerful is you have a lot of story and people know about it. But two, and more important, they enjoy role playing with you, and they know you use that power to like further the experience of others, so they trust you to pull it off. Then you know you can get away with more because you use it to enrich others.
That's actually a
So
really
in that
good point.
case, yeah. So in that case, like I've been in tons of situations where Iradox, you know, had these Sith Lords, as you mentioned, challenge him, and he's just like wiped them off the board, and then like the Lord was just totally accepting it, and it's because they trust me and knew what I was doing. But if you went on just some character that nobody knew, and then went off and pulled that and said, "I am Darth this and this, and now I'm gonna Force Lightning you," then it's just gonna be, who the hell is this guy, you know?
I've seen it in so many scenarios. It's like you need about people that's with the trust that you have in them, because I think it's also with like bad experience in the roleplay that I think every role player in any kind of community at least experienced to some kind of degree, that you encountered a person that you've never met before and they're doing questionable things that you're like, that doesn't look legit.
True.
Are you sure this is in the right era? Are you sure that an acolyte can kill a Darth?
Yeah, but it also gets a bit like you're referring to open world roleplay.
Yeah,
right?
it's for the
as much of it anymore, because like these days, if you join a guild, then you know you have to sort of fit into that guild's narrative.
But
Which
there's still open world roleplay, however. There are initiatives within the community, at least in Darth Maul's community, where they promote
there are a few,
roleplay.
yeah, but it's not as prevalent as it was before. Like, for instance, if you just go to Korriban on a Wednesday evening, you're not likely to actually find anybody in character, which is where you'd encounter these Darth-killing acolytes before.
This is like 2012, 2013. I refer to the Wild West of SWTOR Roleplay. It's...
Yeah, exactly. I have some fun stories with that too.
Oh, please do tell.
There was one time where Iradox went to the Nexus Cantina, and I know some people are going to be like, "Oh, what?" You know that according to the Revan novel, the Nexus Cantina is actually supposed to be a respectable establishment for the higher classes. That's lore. I know that's not how it's portrayed in roleplay. Yeah. But anyway, he took his daughter there, one of his daughters there, to go have a meal, because he was Darth, so he never actually went to the bar. He had somebody go order food for him, right? So they were sitting at the bar, and he was trying to socialize a bit with his daughter, because he was sort of an absentee dad, because he's a Sith, you know. But he was trying in this instance. And then we had some guy looking over at us. And I think he was like a new role player, and he didn't quite know what role thing was. And then suddenly he just walked up to us, and there was this like, he wasn't even Sith, and he just went there and like, "Hello." We were like, "Hello." And then he like leaned in and whispered to Iradox's daughter, like, "What are you doing with that old freak?" Yeah. And we were just sitting there out of character. What is he doing? Like, should we ignore him? And then she's like, "Well, he's actually my father." He's like, "Ha! Well, I'm gonna kill him." And I'm like, we were like, "Okay." And then we decided to ignore him. And then later, when we were walking out, he like ran up in front of us and stopped in front of the Iradox, and we stopped automatically before we realized who he was. And he just like leaned in, and he's like, "This is not over. I'll see you later." And we were just floored. It was so funny. And like that became like an internal joke in our guild. "Oh no, it's that guy. Has he finally found us?" Well, like in those situations, you have a hard time
focusing.
Because you're not quite sure, is this guy trolling, or is it a new role player who doesn't quite know, how to role play? Because you can't. It's hard to find like the written rules of how to role play, and acceptably. So it's a lot of experiences and try and misses. I can probably relate. Like when I started role playing as a teenager in World of Warcraft, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I did a lot of stupid stuff. So I know, like when you enter role play, it can be intimidating and it can be difficult. So sometimes you want to give people the benefit of the doubt and just throw some nuggets at them instead of just
that I'm ignoring.
Just ignoring
I
them
try to
because
whisper them.
Trolls. What?
I usually try to whisper them. It's like, are you actually icy? Or are you just... What are you doing? Like, I
Yeah,
try
what
to
are
be
you
like...
doing? Yeah.
Oh, that's a hilarious story. It's there's so many things that happened, at least in my part, like through all the years of all the role playing. But that's an amazing story that you had, Sarah. It's...
I bet you have some stories like that too. You encounter some weird things out there sometimes.
Oh, I have encountered some weird things. Mostly like there are so many, and it's just really hard to pick one. But there are mostly like the no, how do you want to say it? It's more like the things in roleplay that you just like. I refer to as the Wild West roleplay scenarios.
Yeah,
That
where everything can happen.
this goes back in 2012, and it's a lot of, like, it's like very memorable to me, because if you do this nowadays, people be like, what? But this is very common back in Nar Shaddaa, to just walk around as a Sith. You would suddenly stumble upon a Sith Lord. He'd be like, oh, you see the Jedi over there? Kill him, I even become my apprentice. Like, I don't know if you, like, this is like the things that always stick to my mind. Like, it happened once to me.
That did happen back in the day, yeah.
This happened back in it. Like, I don't know if you also encountered those things, but it actually happened to me once in roleplay. I was just standing there in this Lord, and it's very sudden. I was like...
Not in Nar Shaddaa, no. But, because, you know, if you roleplay on the Promenade, which for the people who don't roleplay in SWTOR, it's sort of like the big area with the big golden hut in SWTOR on Nar Shaddaa,
with the cantina,
which is like the common area where there's a cantina. There was a lot of roleplay happening there back in the day, but like according to lore, that's neutral territory, and if you start messing around there, the huts get angry and they send their guards after you, which, you know, to be fair, if you're playing a Sith Lord, you don't really give a shit because you're just gonna kill those guards. But from like, it was sort of agreed between, you know, the senior role players that you didn't do shit there and you didn't just kill the guards, because that just didn't work. And if you did that, then most likely you'd make like a diplomatic incident, and then some bigger Sith Lords would come and kill you. So you didn't do that. But some people did anyway.
That did still happen. So I remember just sitting there, and I was a Sith, and I was sitting there like, oh, I don't even know how to react to this. Is this serious or not? So I was like, oh, I didn't even know how it ended. I think I just looked off afterwards, like after the scene. It was like, I will consider it. I was sitting there like, nope.
But the thing is, if you know like those expectations, you can also play with them. One thing I did like a year ago or something, when I briefly returned to SWTOR to play another character, was that me and my friend, whom I returned with briefly, we thought that it couldn't be fun to make a little scene, like in the Nar Shaddaa container, when there was still some open role player, like, but do it in a proper way so people think we're doing something wrong until they realize we're not. So what we did was we pistol on the back of another, and we went toward a door, you know, one of the elevator doors that were there, and made a little scene, and somebody came like, hey, you're not supposed to be fighting here, blah, blah. And then my character was like, I'm a licensed bounty hunter. I'm here to deliver this character to the bounty office. Here's my license. Like, but the Hot Cartel will know I'm working for them. I'm here to deliver a bounty. And then they were all like, oh. And then they were like, that other character were like, hey, could I have a hand? Help me! But then they stood there and they didn't really know what to do. And then some people started arguing about it. And my character's like, dude, you're not Shaddaa. I'm a bounty hunter. I'm supposed to deliver this guy to the bounty office. And then one of them were really smart, because we were standing in front of the elevator and I was emoting that was like the way to the bounty office, but for some reason they couldn't get in. Then one of the other characters, instead of like engage us in combat, he went like, well, I think they're closed on Saturdays. You know, that's the and method acting. When somebody do something smart, then you say yes and you run with it. And my character was like, they're closed? Dang it! What am I supposed to do with this bounty then? Oh, it was some hilarious roleplay.
I don't know. Oh my gosh, it really sounds hilarious. It's
It was fun.
I was just thinking about it. I really kind of would love to have role plays more in a bounty hunter setting. Like, I've been mostly role playing Sith and only Sith only.
Yeah, me too.
You too. But what actually caused you to go Republic side? Because, like, I also went Republic side with one character. Like, she was captured, and now she's, like, for half a year slowly becoming initiate and on Typhon. I won't say that weird. On Typhon and...
Yeah.
But how did you came to be that you want to go the good side road?
Well, when I started, like, I've always been a big expanded universe fan. Like, since I was a teen, I've read 200 expanded universe books and comics or something like that by now. So it's been part of my life for a while. And I always liked Sith, like since I was little, Darth Vader, and then later I read the Darth Bane and Darth Plagueis books and the ones with Darth Kaidas and so on. So when SWTOR came, I was ready for it. I was gonna play a Sith Lord. But then I decided to start as a Sith apprentice, And then I went through that storyline for like 6 to 7 years, started out in one of the original Sith role-playing guilds called Hands of Darkness, went through the whole apprentice to Lord, and eventually became a Darth thing, and then, role-played from there, and eventually created my own guild, did some storylines there, and, my character story, Iradox's story, continued until the point that it kind of came to the natural conclusion when his apprentice killed him.
I read about it on the internet. I remember this. Lots of people lost their mind when this person killed you, and I remember it. I was sitting there in the Discord. It's like, oh my gosh, have you seen this person's timeline? Is he actually dead? And we're sitting there like,
yeah, he's dead. He's dead.
He's dead.
Because I think it's an important part of any Sith story to lose their power too. Like the story of a Sith Lord is usually a tragedy, and I felt that was also where Iradox's story ought to end.
It's a good ending.
So it came to its conclusion, and then I thought, okay, gonna step back from SWTOR for a time now, so I went to create that role-play thing that I mentioned on Discord earlier, where I created me and a friend created our own universe set like 20 years after Iradox's death. I went on to, together with like one of my friends, we created like our own Discord server and our own characters, and then we just took turns game mastering and playing characters, and then we created this huge cast of characters, and we just basically continued our story after our main characters were dead, and we played some of their kids and so on, and essentially just imagine what happens after the Sith Empire collapses and so on. I just kept going with that for like 2 years. And then I felt like getting back into more roleplay, and then I figured maybe I should try Warcraft now. I wanted to explore this traveling wizard for a while. So I went and did that for a couple of months, but WoW just isn't really my thing. And then I wanted to return to SWTOR, but I've roleplayed Sith roleplay to death. I'm not really interested. So I decided to try Republic instead.
And here we are.
That's where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, I think our characters should meet, because I've been mostly role-playing Sith for, well, I started off back in the day. Like, I came from, don't judge, I came from Hub Hotel in 2011, which is like, there's like this kids thing, and we had like a very small roleplay community there, and it's like, well, SWTOR's coming out, let's all go to SWTOR and roleplay the Star Wars community there. And I started off as Jedi, went Sith, stayed Sith for almost 8 to 9 years straight, and yeah, last year I was like, well, okay, just go ahead, just capture my character. I will go through the whole process of being a captured Jedi and hopefully roll into the Jedi thing, but I can see being burnt out about Sith roleplay after a while. I still roleplay a Sith Lord nowadays, like it's my Sith Lord took easy.
Roleplay, like when I do game mastering, I still play Sith villains sometimes. And I had an Iradox cameo in a few background stories that I helped write out here and there and game master like on Discord. But still enjoyable playing Sith. I just don't feel like going through that entire storyline again. I've already played that. So I made a new character. Yeah.
It can be very burning out, especially if you're also in a leading position of a Sith roleplay guild or community, because you have the responsibility of like writing out stories and keeping the people happy. And it's, I think, with the Jedi, and I can be wrong, it feels more laid back because they are less focused on progression.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily laid back from what I've seen. Like, granted, I don't have that much experience with Jedi roleplay, but from what I've seen, the Jedi community is very focused on doing things the proper way. You know, the way they feel Jedi roleplay should do. Which, just speaking from the heart here, I don't agree. I think it's a good idea to like have a fairly dogmatic order and so on. But if you actually read the expanded universe books, like most of the interesting Jedi characters are the people who struggle to fit the ideal. So like my Jedi character is a character that's struggling, and it's interesting because he's struggling because he wants to be a good Jedi, but he's having a hard time doing it. And I think you need characters like that to make Jedi RP interesting. If you're all these perfect Jedi that's following the doctrine, running around in brown robes and being like, and just quoting the Jedi code, then it gets really dull, in my opinion.
Some people enjoy it, but for me as a person, as a being, I sometimes feel like, am I role playing a Jedi correct? Because I throw out an emote and I'm just staring at it, and it's like, is this Jedi-ish? Is this the correct way of Jedi roleplay? And I'm just sitting there like,
you get that with Sith roleplay too, right?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, sure. If you're a Jedi master, you probably should, you should probably have reached a level where you are fairly not necessarily dogmatic, but where you've mastered the Jedi way of life, right? But if you're playing Padawan or Knight or something, you're still human, you know. Like I have a Jedi character, he still gets angry, and I can tell you, Luke Skywalker in the new Jedi Order series, and like the expanded universe, he still gets angry. Like they are still human. Like it's not easy living. Like it's not easy living the Jedi way. The way it's portrayed in the novels, based on my interpretation, is that a proper Jedi is the one that gets, that doesn't react too much on those emotions, and who gets control of their impulses, and then in the end do the right thing, right? It doesn't mean that you can't feel emotion. But
so
and
true.
I think based on what I've seen, and granted it's not a lot, so I might be absolutely wrong here. Don't crucify me, Jedi. Remember that hate leads to the dark side. I think that a lot of Jedi guilds get that wrong because they are too strict on getting the Jedi feel right and playing the Jedi right, instead of actually exploring interesting characters.
I have no clue about that part. Like, I've been mostly on the Sith side, but it's a part. Like, there are Jedi guilds, from what I've seen, they are more heavily into the Jedi code in Jedi Order, while there are also smaller guilds which are, like, kind of branching off, and I'm like, well, if a Grey Jedi would be a great term, they would be Grey Jedi.
Oh, yeah, I get that they don't want, like, just to explain to people who don't know what the Grey Jedi thing about is, like, Grey Jedi is either somebody that is like a Malric, like Qui-Gon Jinn, who don't really obey the order, or it could be somebody who, don't adhere to using the Force responsibly, so they might use the dark side a bit. And you get a lot of people who are like, I want to play Grey Jedi, which means I use the light and the dark side. And then most role players will be like, that's not how the Force works. And most Jedi guilds don't want that. Yeah.
Like, hey, can I do that? No.
No, you can't. You're not Revan, and Revan shouldn't have been able to use both powers anyway. But he was for some reason. Yeah.
Well, there are some Force powers that there's, like, if you go into the roleplay, they go like, oh, you cannot use this ability at all if you're like a light side user, you cannot use this ability at all if you're a dark side user. It never was really touched upon in canon, but what is your thought about that? if you think about it.
Are we talking about Disney canon? Or
Like with the Star Wars, like, but also in the roleplay nowadays, that people go like, oh, if you're completely light side, you should not be able to do this at all. Like if you're a Jedi, you cannot do that. Or
I
if
can
you're
tell you how it's portrayed in lore. Like you can actually. It's easier to be light side aligned and use dark side powers, because the dark side is sort of like this evil thing you can always turn to, and then it starts grabbing hold of you and dragging you further down the dark path if you don't go back, you know. So you a Jedi that knows how to summon Force Lightning and still feels anger, which I think that even like characters like Yoda would, but they just know how to control it. But if you take a Jedi Master who's been through shit and is really angry, and they decide to give into that anger and just use it, and they know how to summon Force Lightning, then yeah, they could, absolutely. But a character that's steeped in the dark side would probably have a harder time summoning Force Light or something like that, because it's harder to go the other way around, because the dark side sort of devours you, you know, as a person. And the dark side is easier to turn to. But you can, like, a person is an individual, and like the different path to the Force is sort of like a spectrum, and a person can decide to like give in to the hatred for one day and then go through a couple of weeks and sort of clear their minds and come back and then maybe start connecting Force again and do some more light-sided powers. So it's not that black and white, and that's not how it's portrayed in lore either.
Yeah.
But like really advanced dark side powers like Sith sorcery and stuff like that, you probably need to be pretty deeply steeped in it. It's probably not something you just do.
Even for Sith role players, like with like Sith magic and those things, it will take ages to master to roleplay. It's
and with Sith magic, you need a natural affinity to actually pull it off. But you know, it's just like, for instance, my character Iradox, who had a lot of stuff going for him, he could not do Sith magic. That was a conscious choice I put in there to limit him, and that actually led to a lot of roleplay, because it meant he always had a Sith Lord around who could do Sith magic when he needed it, because he knew a lot about the theory, but he couldn't do it. So he always kept a Sith sorcerer around, and you know who that person was changed over time. And I also did this big multi-guild plot at some point where he had a really good idea for a ritual that he couldn't. So he like held a meeting and he gathered Sith sorcerers for these guilds, and he was like, okay, you need to do this. And then they went like, well, could we do it like this? And then, you know, like things got going.
Hopefully no mess, because usually when it's like a cross guild event, like from my personal experience, it usually ends up in a mess in some kind of a degree. Like some parts are built up really well, but how did it go in your past?
There's always some mess involved, but I think overall it went pretty well. But like I think the biggest like cross guild thing I've done was back during the time skip. You know, when Sakul came and then we had this 5-year-old time skip, and people were like, what the hell are we gonna do now? And then me and some other big names in the community at the time, like Coldrax from the Red Rose Syndicate, and Shanks from the Pirate Consortium, and SWTOR RP. You know,
quite a few big names.
Yeah, and then a few others. We decided, hey, what if a lot of characters got captured and were kept in this prison camp by the crew? And we was like, that's a good idea, let's do it. And then we found a lot of people that want to play prison guards and people that signed up as prisoners, for just, you know, from the community in general. And then we set it up for like 2 weeks where we had characters who were prisoners and characters who were prison guards in the Stronghold, and we just played it out over 2 weeks. And then some things happened along those times, and we had Shanks, he was like the leader of the non-force users, and Iradox were also captured in there, like created a force gang, and then they would like talk about how to break out and stuff like that. Then in the meantime, the guilds that were involved, there were some Jedi guilds and some criminal guilds and Sith guilds. We set up a little plot with some of our other storytellers that figured out where they were, and then they worked together to break us out, which, you know, it all concluded in a big breakout, and then we ran away. And then we had some contacts that your characters wouldn't normally like associate with. That was probably one of the funniest things I've been part of that wasn't just a guild storyline that I hosted on my own, with
That sounds
other
like a really
stuff.
fun thing to do. Like, I've been in one recently, which is now a year ago, and it's called, I didn't even know what the name was. It was something, I think it was Crystal Shadow. And I remember the part. It was like, it took all place on Belsavus, and there were like 5 Jedi guilds and 5 Sith guilds, and it ended up with a big ritual happening, and it was like big Jedi versus Sith things, and then one camp got destroyed, and we had to move to the other one. And eventually the Sith decided, we are going to do a ritual. So there was this one guild working on this ritual, and before this I worked together with this Mandalorian, and we had to found a big generator of the Jedi before, but they couldn't destroy it. So in the middle of the ritual, like, my character, well, like, she didn't know any kind of really Sith magic, so she's just watching. She got a holo call from this mercenary going, I'm gonna destroy it. And nobody from the organization knew about this, and I just sit there, I see this in character and out of character going,
Yeah, that gets a bit.
so my character just rushed off.
Yeah.
So trying to see what the heck was happening over there, and like eventually it all ended well, but it was like, it was fun. Like, it's really fun if you get like multiple guilds organized, but it's always so much work to do. And
Yeah, but it can also get really chaotic if you suddenly have some characters that decide to ruin the plan. Like,
I don't even know if it like ruined the plan, but it needed some improvisation, and so some guild leaders weren't happy about it. But I was sitting there like, my character, if you get a call that a Mandalorian that you worked together before is going to blow over the business thing that only you and him know the location of, and he's just walking right into the Republic field, and then you have to make choices. But in the end, I didn't even know how it ended. I remember a lot of AOC going into the IC and IC going into the OC. Now you just sit there like,
I had
but it was really fun though. It was really fun event.
A bit like that. Not so long ago when I was still in World of Warcraft roleplay, where I was playing this mage who was just anti-war, right? But we ended up in this war campaign, ironically, to get on the Horde side in Lordaeron, for the people that actually know were their World of Warcraft lore. So we were in a war campaign in Lordaeron, and we had some Alliance Guild coming in, and some of the people there on the Horde side were like a neutral war band of Centauri that wanted to steal the gold mine. And my character was like figuring out why the hell we want war here, because like in lore we're not in war with the Alliance at this point. It's like, what the hell is going on? And then it turned out that actually our side just wanted to steal their gold mines, and that was why all this was happening. And he was really frustrated. And then his apprentice went like, "Well, we could just blow up the gold mine." Like, big smirk, and I was just like, "That's an excellent plan, but that would totally ruin this week-long like cross-guild event if we went ahead and that." So, being an experienced storyteller myself, I obviously went to the range. Like, hey guys, so in character we would probably blow up the gold mine, but that might mess up the guild plot. Should we? And they were like, please don't. And then we were like, damn, okay. Yeah.
Oh, this actually reminds me of like this blowing up, but there was also another thing which was called Project Nexus. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's basically eventually the end happened on this big giant asteroid thing in space. And have you heard about it before? Project Nexus?
No, I have not.
You have not. So basically, the original thing was on Alderaan, but the final plot was on this asteroid, and it was Sith versus Jedi, and eventually they were fighting over crystals that are in the ground. I don't know exactly what happened, but it was like 60 people versus 50 people. It was a big mess of fighting emotes. But to derail the things, they were fighting to get crystals that were like in the ground, sticking out, whatever was all emoted. But somehow, from the guild that I was in, a big majority, like, we were Sith, and the Jedi somehow were not attacking them. So imagine that you're just standing there, and everyone is fighting each other, and you're like, let's grab a shovel! I've got to mine some crystals! So the whole event, they run around trying to mine the crystals. Like, I think we kind of derailed the things, because eventually one of the DMs had to go, so especially DM things for them, but they were like, nobody is attacking us, so let's just get the things. And eventually that resulted also like
in your guild getting a lot of the loot. Yeah.
We don't like that, but this is like something that I completely saw over that, and eventually also the whole thing blow up because apparently those things were also explosive. So like I didn't even know what all happened, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that's a good segue into giving a bit of advice to people that looking to get into role. People who are role playing. For instance, you're talking about these big role play situations where the chat is just going.
I can't keep up with that.
What do you do in those situations to keep track of emotes headed your way?
First of all, I try to tell them in advance I'm gonna reply very late, because if you get into a situation where it's like 60 and then like other 60 people and you're in a range of like so many people emoting, your chat just gets flooded. Every second there's like an emote coming through, and the chat box is only this big or so, like if you all expand it out. So try to pre-write emotes on a document, on like a Word document. Like I always try to have 2 screens, and if not, just make it a small document, just write it up and just copy paste it in when you're ready, so they're like straight under each other, so the other person doesn't have to scroll all the way back looking for your emotes. And at least try to have fun, and if you accidentally skip something, try and talk over it with the person, because in this instance it's also happened that I forgot an emote that I didn't saw it from the other person, which apparently was a very big emote because he was slashing his lightsaber at me, and I completely didn't saw it. So my character just walked off, and he was like, "What the heck? I just slashed you," and I was like, "Oh, let me read back 70 paragraphs, please."
I'm some go from Dragon Ball. I didn't even feel it. yeah, I get you. Like what I would advise, I have a few things to advise. Like now we're presuming it's in SWTOR, so you don't have any add-ons to help with it. Because for instance, if you play World of Warcraft, there are add-ons that will allow you to like click on an individual and then only their emotes show up, for instance. Which would be handy, but you can't do that. Yeah,
that would be handy for SWTOR, but
but in SWTOR, if you target somebody with an emote, and there are like tons of emotes going up, write their name in all capital so they notice. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Secondly, if you're not doing this cross-faction, because sometimes even when you do cross-faction RP, the Jedi Guild or the Sith Guild will have an alternative version of their characters. On the
You're breaking up. Jonas?
Hello. Okay, I'm here again.
Your screen is still frozen.
Okay, let's just give it a minute.
Okay.
This is bloody annoying. Yeah, okay. Where were I? Okay, if you don't have that allows you to do that, which you could have if you play in World of Warcraft, you can capitalize like their name, the one you're emoting at, to make sure they see it. Or 2, if you're playing on the same faction, which you'll sometimes do because people have alternative characters on the opposite faction, and it's easier when you roleplay together, then whisper the emote to them too, like post it and whisper it to them, because then they'll notice. Or 3, if you know who the person is, cheat and message the emote to them on Discord too. That helps. That's the best advice I have there.
It's exactly what I did. Like, just at least, like, there are so many communities on Discord, and usually if you're doing a cross-faction thing, they always are on the Discord, so try to find them. I'm like, hey, buddy, I just emoted. Did you read it? And then they're like, oh, crap, I didn't saw it. It's like, okay. Because sometimes you end up waiting like 20 minutes, and you're like, is he AFK? Did he not read my emote? Is he still emoting? What's going on? I think also the most important part is just have fun. Well, role playing, like I know it's kind of hard if you're trying to organize it, because there's a lot of things happening, but it's roleplay. You do it for fun, so.
Yeah, well, like if you're a ranger, then your fun is derived from people coming to you afterwards and saying, "I had so much fun," and people talking about it, and then you get this good little feeling in your stomach, being like, "I did good." Like,
I did good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing feeling, but it can also horribly backlash when you write something up and you spend so many hours, if not days, into it, and then everyone is like just over it.
Yeah, I have a story. that.
Oh,
Do you want
that's...
to hear it?
Like, it's like a thing, like, if you have, like, for, like, anxiety of failing, then it's, like, that's the worst thing. It's, like, you submit the thing, you finish it, you do the story, you do the DMing, and you just, like, pray that the people like it, and that not that...
Sometimes, I think one time something really fell apart on my end. It was not because of my DMing, it was because of some other factors. I had this storyline that I've been spending like half a year on, and we were getting to like the final event, and we were going to fight, the big Sith entity now. And so we're on Corellia, my guild is like going there, and then this Republic player comes running past with PvP tacked on, and I'm like, don't attack him. And one of my guildmates attacks him. Turns out he has full PvP gear, and we are role players, and we don't know what we're doing. So he starts killing them, and the rest of the guild go like, "Oh, let's just kill him!" And then they jump him. We're like 10 people, and he has full PvP gear, and he just kills all of us. And I'm just like, "What the hell? I told you not to attack!" And then we race, and then he kills us again, and again, and again, and I end up having to run the event until the next day because that bloody idiot. Not mentioning any names, attack that guy, and I didn't tell them not to do it.
People, please. Luckily, it can't happen anymore with the incident, but oh man. I was a DM and I was sitting there and I had my pre-written emotes ready to roll, and you just see the thing falling apart in front of your eyes. You're sitting there like...
Yeah, that one did annoy me a lot. I laughed at it in retrospect, but it annoyed me a lot because I've been building momentum for this finale for so long. They ruined it because of that shit.
You have a good story to tell, so it was completely ruined, but it was...
No, and the next day, we went and did the thing, and it was satisfying, and things kept rolling, so it wasn't the end of the world, but it was definitely annoying.
For the DM it was. For the DM it was on that moment.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, it's...
Maybe we should, to conclude, maybe we should give some advice to...
Yeah, I thought so as well. Like, we've been almost talking for an hour. First of all, I want to thank you for joining in.
Good company.
It was a great talk. It was an absolute... I was just sitting there like I have so many more stories to speak about the roleplay.
Maybe we should do a live stream. Maybe we just talk about roleplay experiences.
That sounds like an idea.
Yeah.
Maybe I should. Maybe on Twitch, maybe on YouTube. But I think it's a great way to conclude the video. I'm really bad at ending videos. Do you have something to say?
Well, do you have something to say? What advice would you give a new player? Let's say my name is Tom. Hello, how do you do SWTOR Roleplay?
Hi Tom, how do you SWTOR Roleplay? First of all, search for a guild. That's the thing that I would suggest. Search for a guild, go on engine forums, discords, try to find fellow roleplayers and get connected with the community, and also look at what kind of roleplay you would like to join in with. Like, is it Sith roleplay, is it Jedi roleplay, is it Imperial roleplay, non-force roleplay?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many branches in the roleplay, and so I look around, see what kind of guild would fit for you, because there are guilds that are like 20, 30, 40 online members, and it's not as tight-knit as a smaller guild which only has like 7 online or 5 online. So look for the kind of community you would like to join, and look for what kind of story you would like to roleplay out. And also think that I would highly suggest, if you're completely new to SWTOR, at least get familiar with the lore to a certain degree, because I've seen roleplayers before completely new into Star Wars, and you had to explain them how to roleplay, what the Star Wars universe is, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Come prepared. Like, at least read the basics, like, of the ranks, what you should do as an acolyte when you see a lord. Not like, yo, sup, my boy, to a lord. Because that's not gonna end well for your character.
So to summarize, start by figuring out what kind of character you want to play.
Yeah.
Then read up, just a bit, and maybe start as a low-ranking character so you can learn with the character.
Exactly.
Then go to Malgus /RP. Maybe you can make a little pop-up, because in these days Yeah, because in these days it really is important to like go to the forum, go to the discords, because you won't be able to just go into open world and find roleplay anymore unless you're really lucky. And then find a guild that you think looks interesting and apply for it and try it out.
Exactly.
Maybe read some guides. Yeah.
And eventually, if you get to know people from the guild, and they also have usually have connections and friends, and just mostly networking and networking and networking, because there are a lot of role players out there, and many people say, "Oh, the roleplay community is dead. There are not many role players." There are many role players out there. They are just hiding in their strongholds, and
absolutely,
you need to find them. You need to find them, and most of them are amazing people, but they all have their own style of roleplay, and you just need to see if it's for you.
Well, I say they all have common denominators, right? They're all unspoken rules for role in general. They have different themes and different ways they prefer to go about it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the final thing you can do is subscribe to this channel. Like it. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Right.
Okay, well, that's it. Well, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Hey, bye-bye.